South Africans are in for a dark festive season as Eskom continues to struggle to keep the lights on. The country this week faced stage 5 and 6 load shedding, with 2022 marking the worst year on record for power cuts. For more on this, we're joined by former Eskom Executive Manager Vally Padayachee and SA Energy Forum Executive Director Hlathi Madela, who joins us via Zoom. Gentlemen, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Padayachee. Starting off with you in studio. We heard President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking, saying that as far as matters are concerned, when it comes to when load shedding will end, there's no time frame because Eskom faces various issues, including elements of sabotage. But South Africans are fed up.
Very good evening to you, Impo, and a very good evening to the viewers as well. And thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, the President is absolutely correct. Given the situation, the time frame, although it's been postulated at 2 to 3 years, but it could be longer, in my opinion, given the status of the Eskom infrastructure and the delays being experienced in trying to procure the 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts that we need. Not yesterday, but the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And there are delays in that respect. And also we know that the Eskom infrastructure, especially the Eskom generation coal-fired fleet, is not performing well, sitting at about 56% in terms of the EAF, and that does not augur well. We need it to be about 75%. And I agree. The sabotage and corruption needs to be addressed immediately as a matter of urgency.
Yeah. Because
if that's not addressed urgently, then all the other good work that's being done by let's call them the technocrats at Eskom, will be of no avail.
Perhaps let me take this to Mr. Madela, who is on the line. Mr. Madela, thank you for joining us. I mean, elements of sabotage have been those that have been pointed out by President Cyril Ramaphosa as being one of the many problems plaguing Eskom. What do you have to say about that?
Good evening to you, Paul, and the listeners of ENCA or Newzroom. Yeah. Really, what I want to say here, I hear Mr. Padayachee saying that as a former member of Eskom, the element of sabotage is being ballooned now. It's being overplayed. Yes, it's happening, but that is not the cause of load shedding. What causes load shedding is a myriad of problems in one big basket where the people who have to make tough decisions are unable to make tough decisions. If you allow me, I will state what those are. The question of infrastructure being old. The Eskom power stations have got a lifespan, and so many of them are known that they should be decommissioned as we speak. All of this was planned, and that's why you had Medupi and Gusile and others. The power stations that are now giving problems, we should not be giving problems. There's a legacy there, and there's a reason why they're giving us problems. And it's all in that list of baskets of things that require someone who's not conflicted, someone who's going to put the country first. And as I say, if you give me time, I will count those.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, because we don't have too much time, let me just quickly count them. I wrote them down here. First of all, we have a lack of support from the Eskom board, the CEO and the COO to support their power station managers. These people, especially the CEO and the COO, they first went there and said Eskom is a dying horse. There's no way of getting back the coal power station. That is what Andy de Ruyter and Jan Operosa believes, and that is not true. The second problem that we have, none of them, including the board and the CEO, the president and Minister Pravin Gordhan, none of them want to be transparent enough about the whole entire coal procurement of Eskom. From the guys who are getting a premium and from the guys who are getting the middle of the range price and from the guys who are just making it and scrambling to get a decent price. That creates a problem because there's no harmony amongst the coal suppliers, and nobody wants to face that elephant in the room and say, how could you have so much price disparities between the entire range of coal suppliers at Eskom? That's number two. That needs to be attended on so that the coal supply companies feel they're being treated fairly and they can supply good quality coal to Eskom. The third one, we have a big elephant, which is the biggest elephant in the room. I'm surprised Mr. Padayachee doesn't want to talk about it. Eskom and the government committed to 64 independent power producers between 2011 and 2014. Those contracts are the ones that are putting Eskom in a financial difficult situation that every time you and I pay for electricity, Eskom is unable to actually budget money for maintenance because they have to service those contracts. Luckily, those contracts can be revoked. So you need someone who's going to go in there and quickly revoke those contracts and also touch on the coal procurement. The second last one, which is the fourth one, criminal cases that have been recorded by the Special Investigation Unit of 79 contractors who are due to return back 178 billion rand, not million rand, 178 billion rand, which has been quantified by the Special Investigation Unit, the National Port Authority, National Prosecution Authority of Shamila Batogi. The question is, why are they not recovering so much money? 178 billion rand. The last one, we want a recommendation, we're making a recommendation that put Eskom under judicial management so that all of these people who are obedient to the principal who committed crime, who got us into this contract that we can't get out of. You need the new people here who are not conflicted, who are going to reverse all of these things. So the time to put Eskom under judicial management is now. Yeah. The question is, why are we not doing it? We understand it's not an easy thing to do, but unfortunately, we have to do that. We cannot hide all of these problems behind the vandalism and the sabotage. Yeah. That is minor. Those are the critical matters, Mpo.
Okay. Let's get some reaction in studio here from Mr. Padayachee. I can see you itching to get back with a response. The biggest elephant in the room, those 64 independent power producers, I mean, that is a matter of importance.
Thanks, Mpo. And I may have a slightly different viewpoints to my colleague on the panel. Not in all aspects. I agree with him on some of the aspects. Yeah. But the elephant on the table, okay, fine, it's those IPP contracts. But that's not the real elephant on the table. The real elephant on the table is that we need the Eskom fleet to perform, right? And meaning that the Eskom coal-fired fleet needs to be performing, as I indicated, at around about 70-75% EAF. And to do that, they need Eskom to come to the table in terms of proper maintenance, etc. So I'm not disputing that. Eskom may not be putting up all the effort in terms of the maintenance. I know they're trying. But a significant part of that is that if the sabotage continues to happen, then that maintenance initiatives, etc., will not be allowed to continue, and the outcomes will not be achieved. Now, in terms of the sabotage, and I'm making a very bold statement here, I think it's reached a level, from what I can gather from the intelligence that I picked up from people, is that we need probably using the legal aspects for a national emergency to be declared within Eskom. And if a national emergency is declared within Eskom, not indefinitely, maybe for 6 to 9 months, so that it doesn't spook off the markets. Yeah. And then it gives all the security agencies and the other law enforcement agencies maybe the legal powers to go there and do a complete clean-out. Because if you do not clean out the sabotage and the corruption now, then this problem is going to perpetuate. And we cannot afford for this problem of continuous load shedding to be continued. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is obviously leadership, right? I don't believe that the proper leadership is being given to the challenges facing Eskom at the moment. and I've spoken a lot about that in other programs. I think, and just to summarize that, what Eskom needs now is a leadership team for a business unusual. It's a leadership team for the crisis management and a leadership team that can think on the feet. Yeah. So that's not happening at the moment. The other aspect is that what we must be very careful, and it's not being talked about, that in a power station, and having come from a power station, the different ranks, the employees that run the power station, right, I would say that about 20% of them will be considered as the pilots of the power station.
In fact, I'd like for you to hold that thought as we will continue in just a moment. Of course, staying on the line, there is also the Executive Director at the SA Energy Forum, Hlathi Madela, who is joining us, as well as Vally Padayachee, former Eskom Executive, in studio as we continue the conversation in just a moment. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us as we continue our discussion around Eskom. I'm joined by former Eskom Executive Manager Vally Padayachee in studio, as well as SA Energy Forum Executive Director Hlathi Madela, who joins us via Zoom. Perhaps as I try and move the conversation, you were speaking about issues of leadership and also speaking about how perhaps as a solution, a 6 to 9 month national emergency needs to be declared within Eskom. Let me take this to Mr. Madela. As you listen to the issues around leadership, I mean, we've heard calls that have been reiterated, in fact, just this week. SAFTU's Zwelinzima Vavi saying that he wants the Eskom CEO, President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan to resign, because he says that this matter within Eskom has reached a boiling point. On the other end, we've heard President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that the board has his full support. They need to be given time to try and understand the inner workings within Eskom to come up with a robust solution. What do you say to that?
First of all, I agree with Mr. Vavi and the others making a call for the Rata and Jan Oberholzer, the COO, Chief Operating Officer. It's time for them to go. Jan Oberholzer has already offered to leave. He's leaving at the end of April or beginning of April. The man who's standing there, standing in the way of the country is Andre de Ruyter. It's a right call from the likes of Vavi that President Ramaphosa and Pravin Gordhan must get rid of Andre de Ruyter. Andre de Ruyter has got his own reason why he's shielding all the problems that I spoke about before. If you listen very carefully to Mr. Padayachee, there's an agreement that Eskom must be placed under a national emergency for 9 months. To me, I call it the judicial management, to take the powers away from Andre de Ruyter, to take the powers away from the guy who's responsible for planning. But also, the time has come for us to tell South Africans what exactly are the problems at Eskom. I can guarantee you and I can bet you, all the reasons that have been given by Andre de Ruyter and Jan Oberholzer, they are not the reason why we are having the load shedding. The reason why we are having load shedding is people have taken a mechanical machine and made it look like it is unable to do its job. It's like someone saying to you, all of a sudden the cars are going to give problems on the road. South Africans cannot be transported because cars are giving problems. No, these people must get to the root cause of this. We must place Eskom in that national disaster emergency that he's talking about. Take the power away from Andre de Ruyter. In the words of Vavi, that's firing him. We welcome that. Bring a team like us and all others to tell you about the complexities of this contract. They are not easy contracts. For you to tell Glencoe that you are no longer going to give them 1,400 rand a ton, you're going to give them 700 rand a ton.
Yeah. Mr. Madela, perhaps let's leave it there for now, because there appears to be a problem with your line. In him raising that position that perhaps Andre de Ruyter needs to go, we've heard from others who've spoken to the problem of the leadership crisis in Eskom, 10 CEOs within 10 years, and that one critic has said getting rid of Andre de Ruyter is not going to necessarily solve anything at this stage, because the new CEO would then need some time to assess the situation and further delay the big problem. Do you think that option of him stepping down would be a good one?
I think it'll be a good one, and I personally don't have any issues with Andre de Ruyter from a personality point of view.
Yes.
Right? But I think from a simple management, leadership perspective, we are in a crisis situation. So you need a crisis management leadership team. Andre and his team has been there, I think, for 3 years, right? And things have not worked out. So in simple management leadership parlors, it means that you should step out and bring in a new team. Now, where I disagree with
Mr. Madela.
well, not so much with him, but in the point of we had other CEOs. I'm saying you need, and I'm repeating here, you need to bring a CEO that's for a crisis management situation, for a turnaround situation, for a guy that thinks on his feet, that can take the tough decisions. And we have them, not too many, but we have them, maybe not in South Africa, maybe globally, but even in South Africa, we could have those. We need that CEO to come on board and hit the ground, not running, but sprinting. So, and I don't believe Andre, and with due respect to him, has that capability. Firstly, he's not a technocrat.
Yeah.
He's not a technical person. So you need a technical person to make that call as a turnaround person. So it's high time that government and the board gives serious consideration to that.
And the board has just been appointed. I mean, President Cyril Ramaphosa was saying that they need to be given time. Is it fair to give them the time as they try and get to their minds wrapped around the complexities within Eskom?
No, Impo, there's no time.
Yeah.
Rome is burning, right? I made the point, I think one of my previous engagements, that we should have had a board appointed, I'd say with about 75% highly skilled, competent engineers, experienced. This board doesn't reflect that, right? I also made the call that this board should have went and booked into a hotel in Mpumalanga and got au fait with the power station and came back and made decisions. We haven't seen that happening. So we don't have time. I think there's one or two guys on the board who I know who have that experience. I call it calluses in the fingers, calluses in the brain, and I say that with experience. With respect, but I believe that there's some tough decisions that government has to make now, even if it means going back and re-looking at the leadership. Because if we don't do that, we're probably going to have a black Christmas, we're going to mess up this economy, and we'll collapse the grid.
Yeah.
And we could have stage 6, stage 7, stage 8 load shedding around the corner. So we have leadership that needs to take the bull by the horns.
I'm hoping Mr. Madela is still on the line with us via Zoom. What are your thoughts around the pace at which the Eskom board needs to move at, or perhaps being replaced? Because the president is saying they need time, they need to navigate their minds around what's happening within Eskom before they come up with something that will make a difference.
Once again, and you, Mr. Padayachee, and the listeners, since 2019, we've been changing these boards. We've been replacing them with new people. We've been having hope that something is going to happen. You can replace this board tomorrow. Nothing is going to change. Not because this board is doing the right thing. It's because as long as you don't address the real elephant, which I spoke about in the room, you're going to have continuously having problems. Mpho Makwana was there at Eskom when Eskom was doing very well. He was there when Eskom had a very high energy availability factor. He has come in as the chairperson of this board. He's not talking about things that he himself knows that those are the things that needs to be done because he can't find his voice against his own principles. So whether you leave under the radar there for now, or sorry, you leave the board that is there because I don't want under the radar. Remove under the radar and remove Jan Operosa. Keep the board that is there. But have independent people coming from outside like myself, counting all these reasons that I gave you. Let us ask them, where are the contracts for the 64 IPPs of bid window 1, bid window 2? Let them tell us who are they paying what amount for coal procurement. Let them tell us what are those reasons of sabotage. Let them tell us why is Majuba Power Station and Litabo's Power Station not working today. The board is not going to do all these things. What you now need someone to tell South Africans what is really going on there. The people who are there are not wanting. Our plans are compromised. Let me give you a simple reason. Out of the 64 IPP companies that we have to renegotiate down or take them over under National Treasury, President Ramaphosa, you tell these people that you are taking the market away from them. You have to tell the principal of the country to say, please, lead the conversation of telling these people that they are not going to be able to bank so much money like they used to do because we have to prioritize the country first.
Yeah.
They cannot act against their own principle. We've given you these reasons. Let us expand on these reasons. Let South Africa know what are these contracts, and let us ask the question amongst all South Africans, who's got the guts enough to face these bullies and say to them, the country first in terms of coal procurement, the country first in terms of the contracts for IPPs, the country first in terms of the lack of support for the power station managers. We don't have the people who've got the guts and the courage to do these things.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much. Let's perhaps leave it there for now, gentlemen. Thanking you both for your time. Thanks for weighing in. Former Eskom Executive Manager Vally Padayachee in studio, as well as on the Zoom line there, SA Energy Forum Executive Director Hlathi Madela. Thank you for your time.